Hello and welcome to the program. This weekend, an unusual music show takes place in Kyiv. It is called the Battle of Orchestras and involves two orchestras which are simultaneously playing on the same stage. Besides popularizing symphonic music in Ukraine, the event has one more goal: cultural exchange. Now, to talk more about this, we welcome to our studio today American guitarist of Ukrainian origin, Vlad de Briansky. Hello and thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So, first question: these having two orchestras seems quite challenging. How to deal? You take part of the show. How do you see those challenges?
Well, first I was invited to a show as a guest. So there were two producers that actually they came up with the idea with the show. I think it's a new concept because I haven't seen this kind of a concept before. So it's two orchestras. One is a youth orchestra and one is adult professional orchestra, and they have a similar program, I assume, and they compete. And the audience, with the tickets, they select the winner. And I'm performing as a guest with two orchestras altogether, doing I think 2 or 3 songs. I think the challenge of this show is that well, so you can imagine it's 50 people and 50 people at the same stage, and they talk to each other with songs, basically cover songs, right? And they have to compete, basically win the audience. And you have the children, which is 8 years old, 8 through 15.
Yes.
And then the adults, obviously, that have all the careers and all that. I've seen the rehearsals. I'm rooting for the children, of course. And I mean,
so you already have a side here.
Yeah, my heart is not already with the youth. But look, what I've seen from the show, I mean, from the rehearsals, is that the orchestras, the arrangement are so unique because they take, like, for example, We Will Rock You by Queen, but they do this in symphony and yet with kind of jazz approach to it. It's very interesting.
So you yourself, as you said, that's the first time you saw that kind of thing, those two orchestra. Do you think that kind of thing can be exported, or can it be repeated maybe in other countries? I think
the idea first was to create something like this unique in Ukraine. And I got introduced to the producers, and we talked about how we can bridge the cultures. I'm a blues guitarist and a producer, and I'm having a tour. And actually, I was by accident here in Ukraine, and we met. And I thought it would be a great idea to kind of export that. And I'm already building a bridge between the cultures, basically, like American and Ukrainian. And by having this kind of a concept of a show, it kind of unites people from the audience as well, because it's symphonic of popular songs that people know and they heard before, but the arrangement is very unique to that, right? And it's also children, which is, I haven't seen any symphonies of, I mean, I'm on board, on artistic board at the Carnegie Hall, and we have a youth orchestra there. But it's a World Youth Orchestra, so basically it's a UN kind of like sponsored. But this is very like unique Ukrainian approach to that, with its authenticity and jazz, which is unusual to hear jazz in Ukraine, right? So it comes from that part of the world, and then we kind of bridge jazz and the folk music from Ukraine through the symphony, like through the excitement of the competition, and then I'm bringing the blues to it, so it kind of makes it very interesting.
Yeah, because that's it. And this is my next question: the idea of exchange. It's all about like this exchange between youth and adult orchestra, and there is also this exchange between different concepts and different music. Yeah. What do you think can maybe like foreign musicians can learn from this experience, or Ukraine can learn from this experience, from this exchange?
That's a good question. I think it works both ways. As being an American musician, I've never seen a challenge for myself to work with two orchestras that compete with each other, and they basically have to win me as an artist to play with them, and yet I had to win them, both of them, to perform for my audience. So automatically, it gives the platform of culture exchange, right? And as far as the arrangement goes, for example, I play swing and blues, so it's very unique to American culture. And when you come to Ukraine, especially the young ones, they're so open to the new culture, to the new ideas, how it's done. And the moment you get to that as a guest star, let's say, right, to the orchestra, they're so willing to accept what it is.
Anything that's
yeah,
new.
and they just play with you. You know, they're so open. It's so cute. It's so beautiful. I've never seen anything like that.
So you would say it's specific to Ukraine, that kind of energy, that kind of enthusiasm towards
Yes, absolutely. You
experiences?
know, I'm also an educator, and I worked with Berklee College of Music out of Boston, and I've seen the kids around the world and how they approach the education and music in general. In Ukraine, what I've seen, so there's a lot of enthusiasm in music education, and music and culture in general, I should say. There is more things happening in culture here than in Los Angeles alone. You know, it's so much energy happening here in Kyiv. I haven't been much in Ukraine, but I've been in Lviv and Kyiv, and I've seen what's happening here in Kyiv. It's just extremely exciting. I mean, maybe somewhere in New York something is that kind of level happening, because I remember I used to be in New York and I worked with the UN at that time, but what's happening here in Kyiv is very exciting for everybody. I think for an American to come here and to work with the Ukrainian orchestra is very interesting. Like, for example, a friend of mine, who's a Hollywood producer and a Hollywood composer, Petra Cassidy, so he's doing an opera in Rome right now, and I'm saying, well, come to Kyiv, and we'll just make this youth orchestra around you. And that's going to be very interesting, because nothing like this has been done before. So he said, yes, of course we'll do this. So maybe this kind of cultural exchange will go forward and we'll do something out of it.
Now, on a more global level, do you think that those possibilities and these talents, is it due to the fact that, well, Ukraine gained its independence in 1991, so, I mean, politically, it's a young country. Do you think it's due to that, or do you think it's something deeper?
I think it has to do with both history of Ukraine and also what's now. And I think they're so different, polar opposites, actually, because the history of Ukraine is very picturesque, if you will, right? To say the least. Right?
to say the least.
Right. So a lot of events, a lot of challenges, a lot of back and forth, like somebody was going into Ukraine, off Ukraine, and all that stuff, right? And so I think it's culturally, it's a rich country, because a lot of cultures came through Ukraine, right? So that's the history. But what's today, because it's open, because it had the revolution, and I think it's facing the new youth culture that has to be shown. Number one, it has to be cultivated here in Ukraine and also integrated in the world. And I think that's what's happening right now. I've seen a lot of things in Ukraine. I've been here for almost a month now, and I've been introduced to various artists, and it's just so much of it, you know, and they're so willing, you know, and they're so willing to grow as well, right? And that's very important, I think.
Yeah, it must be fascinating to see it unfold under your
eyes. Of course, right? It's very exciting. I'm telling you, I've been in Los Angeles and California for 20 years, and New York before that, and Boston before that, and I travel around the world. And the moment I come to Kyiv, it's always exciting. And the more, like now I come like probably twice a year, and it's more and more exciting here. I think culturally, Kyiv specifically is growing and probably is supposed to be like one of the cultural centers, probably in Europe soon.
So now that's so tonight you have these dates, and to conclude this interview, what's next for you and Ukraine in general? Do you have other projects here? Do you plan to come back? What's
well, as I said,
step?
Well, I'm basically by accident came here because I married a Ukrainian woman, as I encourage anybody to do this. So and I'm having a music tour right now. It's called October Music Tour, and we started in Los Angeles. Then we went through the States. We went to London, Paris. Then we're going through Kyiv. We actually tomorrow, or maybe the next day, we're going to Severodonetsk, which is the eastern part of Ukraine. That's kind of challenging because that's the trouble zone as well. But I want to bring that to people and show how it's done and what's interesting to exchange. And then we're going back and we're going to Australia. But I think we already have plans for March and April to do something here with orchestras in Ukraine as well.
Well, and we will happily follow you up on that project.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming in our studio today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
That was American musician Vlad de Briansky. Thank you for watching the program, and stay tuned for the rest.